Hi internet friends, the rival Iraqi Jewish clans who changed the face of Shanghai. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about the long links between China and European Jewry and Middle East Jewry and the current strong links today. As we all know, there's war in the South China Sea looming. It's a massive and very dangerous time. Who knows which way it's going to go. We need to understand the strong links between Israel and China and the amazing discipline of the mainstream media, apart from very short and sharp articles which fail to mention it, and the alt media like James Corbett or a Whitney Webb, who just fail to understand the Belt and Road and the links between Israel, Russia, China and Iran. Let's quickly go through the news articles before we read this Haaretz article. This is absolutely instructive. It's slowly getting out there, and it's interesting that the video I did a week or so ago is suddenly... the issue has popped up in the Israeli press. I love the Israeli press. They're some of the most honest mainstream reporting out there. But let's just quickly go through. If you're not familiar with just how deep the ties are between Israel and China are, breaking China, a rupture looms between Israel and the United States. All the links will be below, by the way. China's tech money heads for Israel as US welcome wanes. By the way, the date is the July 18, 2020, 12:06 p.m. Report Israel passes US military technology to China. That's from 2013. This has been going on for 20 years in this incarnation. Let's not forget the same thing to the Soviet Union. Major Jordan's diaries. The link is below. Understand that Rothschild has been feeding his golem creations with stolen technology from day dot. China's new generation sets its sights on Israel. That's from June 5th, 2016. How Israel used weapons technology to become an ally of China. That's 2017. Trump must warn Israel on its China trade. This is from the Washington Examiner, and this is very interesting. This is July 19, 2018, and as we pushed forward that group, which included Fred Smith, Skull and Bones, and the founder of FedEx, tapped twice for Secretary of Defense, close friends with John Kerry and George W. Bush. His nephew Joseph Davies, of course, was with us pushing this as well. That's Skull and Bones, people. 3 articles came out, Washington Examiner, the BBC, and a Canadian site within 3 days of each other. It was the only shot across the bows on the issue we saw. It was quite incredible. Unlikely partners, China and Israel deepening trade ties, July 2018. That's the BBC article, warning of the dangers. In Beijing, my favourite article, in Beijing, Netanyahu looks to marry Israel's technology with China's capacity. That is from March 2017. They've been meeting non-stop. But, considering Trump's at war literally with China, the Trump administration, I don't know, Jared Kushner doesn't appear to be too worried about his little friend Benjamin Netanyahu's close relationship with China. It's worse than close. It's completely treasonous and worthy of a United States Marine Corps 2-division landing on the beaches of Tel Aviv, otherwise known as Moscow on the Mediterranean. If you didn't know, Jared Kushner, amateur idiot in the White House and spy for the Israeli state, is very close with Chabad Lubavitch. Obviously, in fact, he is Chabad Lubavitch. And Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu used to stay in Jared Kushner's room when he would visit, I believe it was Massachusetts, when he was attending MIT. China is hungry for advanced Israeli technology. That's from 2015. China says it will host Israeli-Palestinian peace symposium. So that China's moving into the Middle East with Russia as we speak. It's pretty big. So war's inevitable unless it's all theatre. We don't know yet, but I suspect my default position is theatre, but I'm starting to see signs that no, this is real. This is from 2017. My favourite article, FBI source in Russia probe. This is from 2020, 8th of May. FBI source in Russia probe called Israelis effing spies who should be killed. DOJ releases transcript of source speaking with George Papadopoulos, who was probed by Mueller over his ties to Israel, which includes references to the Mossad and, quote, fake Russian Jews. And we should just very quickly get that article up. It's my favourite article. This is from the Guardian. This is from 2011, August. Israel's former Soviet immigrants transform adopted country. Russian-speaking Jews who arrived over the past 20 years have integrated little but influenced everything from culture to politics. The 20 million, the million plus citizens of the former Soviet Union who migrated to Israel in the past 20 years have not only made new lives of their own, but they have transformed their adopted country. They have influenced the culture, high-tech industry, that's all those computer, missile technicians, computer scientists, aeronautical engineers, material science, language education, and perhaps most significantly, Israeli politics. Link is below. It's the ultimate article based on the book by Lily Galili, The Million That Changed the Middle East. Let's go on. Look, it's a Russian colony, has been from day dot. All the prime ministers were either born in the old Russian Empire, Soviet Empire, Moldavia, Russia itself, and Poland and Belarus. All of them, every single Israeli prime minister is either the son or daughter or born in that region. That's not an accident. It's a Bolshevik plot. Borscht Belt, will Israel spurn America for Russia? That's from 2015. Russian pilgrims feel at home in Israel, Patriarch Kirill. He's the head of the Russian Orthodox Christian Church. That's the guy who's a millionaire from, they used to call him the Tobacco Metropolitan before he became Patriarch. He was a millionaire from tobacco taxes, oil taxes, and vodka taxes. And he wears his $30,000 Swiss watches. He quite likes to wear them. Now imagine if this was the Pope. The article is here by the New York Times. This is from April 5, 2012. $30,000 watch vanishes up church leader's sleeve. When you look, they airbrushed out the watch because they thought it was embarrassing. They were caught out doing it. The guy's a creep. Patriarch Kirill is a creep. He sues people left and right, demands money for dust that fell into his Moscow apartment. What amazes me is the willingness to pursue the Vatican, and rightly so in many cases, obviously, but no one will touch the Russian Orthodox Church and their massive corruption, drug money laundering, drug trafficking. I mean, dear God, linked up with Israel and the oligarchs, you name it. Let's move on. Israel and Iran both set to join Russia-led free trade zone. That's from 2019, 12th of February. Did you find that interesting? Israel and Iran both set to join Russia-led free trade zone. Rouhani and Zarif, right? Zarif is besties with who? John Kerry, Skull and Bones. Fred Smith, who came to us, he's Skull and Bones. All that funding to mint press news with Whitney Webb, and they refuse to mention Russia and China and the Belt and Road. I mean, it doesn't take much to work out Whitney Webb and the gang and the James Corbetts of this world. Why Russia needs Israel from 2018. Why Russia should take over Israel's defense from America. That's from The Week. That's very interesting. Let's get the whole article up. I'll switch off the script blockers. I love that photo. I love that photo. Look at him. That's such a classic BB look. By Peter Weber. Go and read that whole article. I'm going to put it at the top because it's fascinating. The Week is a very big online journal. It's not small, obscure. But this is the passage I love the most. Now you need to read the whole article. Every paragraph is insightful, but this is my favorite. All these people, Putin saved Syria. No, Putin assisted in the complete and utter and total destruction of Syria. He didn't save Syria. 90% of the people fighting there weren't ISIS. They were genuine Syrian patriots and nationalists who wanted to get rid of a corrupt, fingernail-pulling, thug, Soviet-led pieces of garbage crime family called the Assads. You would never call Saddam Hussein a Democrat, all right? The only difference between Saddam Hussein and the Assad family is while Saddam gave himself a 90% win in the joke elections, the Assad family give them 70% wins. They're crooks, for crying out loud. And while, listen to this, I love this. And while Russia hasn't been a very active player in the Israeli-Palestinian peace talks, the US seems to have run out of steam as lead intermediary. Perhaps that's what that means is code for too many leftist Jews in America are screaming about Palestinian rights. It's really cramping our style. So let's go to these hard-hearted Russians. And Russians are hard, man. They've had 100 years of living a hard life. It's going to take generations to soften up. Listen to this. Perhaps Moscow, given its historical support for the Palestinians, would be viewed by both sides as an honest broker. Barring that, quote, get this, I love this, Israel could at least have a freer hand to intervene militarily in the Palestinian territories without concern that its main global patron would criticize it on human rights grounds. Imagine what they're saying is we can kill a lot more Arab men, women and children and Russia won't object. Let's read the last paragraph. I love it. It's all available. It's all freely available links, but James Corbett missed it. Whitney Webb missed it. All the Russian groupies, all the Iran groupies missed all of this stuff. Israel and the US have a long, they didn't miss it, they work for someone. They're all frauds. Israel and the US have a long, close friendship, but as the band Chicago says, everybody needs a little time away. There's no need to consciously uncouple entirely Russia. We need the tech out of America, so we can't completely decouple. Russia and Israel are already friendly, at least in a casual way, and the US wouldn't become Israel's enemy. But if everyone would benefit from a Mideast realignment, there's no need to stay together for nostalgia's sake. US policy on Israel has been remarkably steady for decades. But isn't it carved? But it isn't carved in a stone tablet. I love Israel and Russia. They're just whores, absolute whores. And they'll just casually tell you, well, we're ready to dispense with you. Who's our next sucker? Who's our next John of this whore of Babylon? God's sake. And how did they miss all this stuff? Absolute shame on them. All of the big boys. Breaking Israel news. Obviously, that's one of those things. You click the link, it doesn't go to the right place. An emerging alliance, Russia and Israel. That's from 2016. We'll get to the Kardoorie and Sassoon article soon. Israeli firms invest in Russia, 2007. The oligarchs are all there. Massive, massive investment. Let's move quickly into China before we go on. China hosts Russia, Iran for summit as US tensions rise. That's 2018. This is the complete realignment and pushing America out of the Mideast and Europe, the Stalinist dream, so he could take over for Rothschild, the pan-Eurasian superstate. And they're going to put the homeland, of course, in Israel. And America will handle North America, South America. That was Trump's job, but we're hoping the military has woken up. I think they have, but let's not hold our breath on that. Let's be very cautious. Even as Russian Jews emigrate, a ritzy JCC opens near Moscow. A 20 million Zukva Jewish community center inaugurated amid fanfare and concern over Putin's nationalist agenda. That's from 2015. Putin's doing just fine, thank you. July 16, 2018, why Russia needs Israel. Russian billionaire takes a local interest. The Russian Jewish billionaire Oleg Deripaska, at 36, one of the youngest billionaires in the world, is examining investment opportunities in Israel. Oleg Deripaska has been all over Israel for years. Report, Iran accuses Russia of giving Israeli codes for Syrian air defences. Of course they damn well did. You didn't have to be an expert to work out how in bed together they are, crying out loud. And Israel, Russia love. Why do Israel and Russia love each other now, this world? 2.15 million subscribers, 395,000 views. Now that's just a start. You know my channel, watch my channel for stuff on the technology transfers. Ask yourself the big question, how do all these big players miss all this stuff? This history is open history, it's basic history. I got it with a simple Google search, a few Google alerts, people were sending me stuff, 5 or 10 people, Jalil included. And I don't know what to say. I'm not sure what the problem is with all this. But other than, watch the CIA culture war on my channel, please. If you go to my channel there, it's under Brendan O'Connell. One simple Google search, Brendan O'Connell YouTube, you'll find it. Go to playlists. Go and watch CIA culture words. View full playlist. You'll understand why these people... Number one, you don't need to be handled directly. It's not like James Corbett or Whitney Webb gets a call from the CIA or the Russian GRU or the Chinese intelligence. It's just they realize which side their bread is buttered on. They know where the money is and they don't want to risk their little empires. They're making money. They're running businesses. They're not running a political dissident site. They're running businesses. Corbett makes between easy $3,000 to $4,000 a week. A week. You have nearly 2,000 donors on Patreon, you're making a lot of money, I assure you. Whitney Webb again, we reiterate over and over again, if you watch how the CIA ran all these front companies, they ran magazines, they ran newspapers, they ran news stations, they had under Operation Mockingbird every editor in the United States, editorial, news desk head, under their control. The Russians had the same, the Chinese have the same, the Brits have the same. Everybody does the same thing. So do you seriously believe that the trillionaire bankers of Rothschild and Co., the people that built the internet itself and funded it and coddled it, do you think they forgot to get control of the internet alt media? When I watch the alt media, it's like I'm watching the mainstream news. It's like I'm watching CNN. All right, it's ridiculous. Anyone with a big channel over 50,000, 20,000 subscribers is at least slightly suspect. You should be cautious. That doesn't mean you throw them away and not listen to them or watch them. It just means you need to understand what you're watching. The biggest clue as to what a giant fraud it all is. Remember, I've been at this 20 years. Most of you are newbies. I've been at this 20 years. I know all the tricks they pull. I remember in the glory days, 2006 to 2008, the Skunk, Judicial Inc.biz, all the big players. Giant, 3 million views a month. They went after them all the same way they tried to take over the British Nationalist Party under Nick Griffin and largely succeeded. They went after every single grassroots organic movement and took it over, sidelined the real players, wiped them out, and put their jockeys. Look, I wouldn't have been here. Adam Green would be controlling this narrative, right, with Whitney Webb, if I couldn't stay online. They weren't trying to hack me to harass me. They were hacking me offline. I just happened to have some skills to keep myself online. It wasn't a joke. But you don't need to be a fully paid member getting phone calls from your intelligence of choice. They said themselves in the CIA culture war, and I urge you to watch the secret CIA campaign to influence culture. They said the best ones were the ones that didn't know they were being handled. They just knew which side their bread was buttered on. They self-censored, and they worked out which way they should go to make the most money and maintain their egos and get invited to these conferences like Jeff Berwick is kissing my ass now. Oh, please don't come and spoil my conference. Oh, please don't talk about my days backpacking around Central and South America and running up to Canada with cocaine shoved up my backside, because I'd say his rectum is fully dilated. Man, I'm all over Jeff Berwick. You just put in Jeff Berwick fraud and knocked yourself out. I spent 3 hours watching every video. The man freely admits he's bribing corrupt officials all over Central and South America and Mexico to get people passports. I mean, I'm not sure what else you need. The partying with the hookies he's obviously hired in his little promotional videos. I've never seen such a sickening fraudster in all my days, and everyone missed it. How the hell do you miss that? So understand the internet is a cesspit. You just got to pick and choose. Don't trust me. Don't trust anyone. Take the stuff that resonates with you, that makes sense, and go with that. Then you'll understand the internet. And before we get to the main article, just to remind you, Sufyan has the video up. The link is below to the Arabic subtitles. Now, we haven't done the voiceovers because it's too difficult. Arabic is almost twice as long to describe the same thing. So a 20-second segment of me talking becomes 40 seconds. It requires a complete re-edit, and I can't do it because I don't understand Arabic and I can't slot it into the correct position. But we'll work on these things slowly but surely. So Sufyan's link is below. If you know Arabic speakers, you'll be able to send them the best videos. Let's go back to the article. The rival Iraqi Jewish clans who changed the face of Shanghai, the Sassoons and Kadoories, created huge competing business empires, helped open China to the west, and aided Jewish refugees in Shanghai during the Shoah. But their fates differed greatly, as revealed in a new book. Let's go across to the article here. For the full articles, you've got to pay. It's from the World News. The chefs were French, the managers Swiss. Now you're going to understand, by the way, you're going to understand Crazy Rich Asians, the movie. The chefs were French, the managers Swiss. The managers were Swiss and the chefs were French. The Swiss and the French. The jazz musicians American. In the 1930s, the Majestic was Asia's most luxurious hotel. The world's high and mighty would stop over in Shanghai just to spend a night there. International celebrities made the gleaming hotel a regular stop on their trips to the region. But then another hotel, the Cathay, was built in the city, and overnight the Majestic became a second-class place. In the Cathay, the carpets were brought in from France, the rugs from Japan, the armchairs from India. Crystal chandeliers adorned the corridors, and a spectacular mosaic ceiling welcomed guests in the lobby. The Cathay was, quote, one of the most luxurious hoteleries in the world, rivaling the best in Manhattan, end quote. That's from Fortune magazine, gushed in 1935. The battle between the two luxury hotels embodied the rivalry between their proprietors, two wealthy families that both managed economic empires in Shanghai. They also had something else in common. Their roots were in the Jewish community of Baghdad. It's rowdy Jews. The Sassoon and Kadoorie families were two dynasties, linked by blood ties, who had emigrated to China a century earlier and established flourishing businesses. They owned prestigious buildings and controlled a wide range of industries, from gas and infrastructure to banks, a casino, and in the case of one of them, also the local opium trade. That's the Sassoon family. The Rothschilds of the East. Work it out, East India Trading Company. They transformed Shanghai into an international mecca of tourism, commerce and leisure during the post-war period. They changed the face of the city and of China. The Sassoons and the Kadoories played an important role in opening China to the world, as well as Henry Kissinger, says journalist and writer Jonathan Kaufman, whose newly published book, The Last Kings of Shanghai, tells the story of the two families. And we'll remember Nathan Gregory Silvermaster and the infamous Silvermaster spy rings and Roosevelt's entire cabinet. A lot of these people came from China. I mean, Nathan Gregory Silvermaster learnt a perfect English accent where he was born and bred in China before coming to the United States. That's Nathan Gregory Silvermaster, the head of the Silvermaster spy ring, which went to the highest levels of the US government. And just by typing in the Silvermaster Spy Ring Conservapedia, or just the Silvermaster Spy Ring, you'll get plenty of information on Nathan Gregory Silvermaster. Born November 27, 1998, an economist with the United States War Production Board during World War II, was the head of a large ring of communist spies in the US government. It is from him that the FBI Silvermaster smile documenting the Bureau's investigation into communist penetration of the federal government during the 1930s and 40s takes its name. His wife Helen and stepson Anatol Volkov were members of his ring. And here's Nathan Gregory Silvermaster at the Senate investigations. Read the whole thing. I notice now they have removed the picture out of the Silvermaster group. Where is the image of all the guys, all Roosevelt's gang hanging out with Mao? Where is it? Oh my God, they have cleansed that picture off the internet. Where is it? It should be top of the list. I can't believe it. Well, there's one. That's Frank Coe and Shlomo Adler with Mao. They're all from Silvermaster Spy Ring and the Roosevelt cabinet. And I can't believe it. They have cleansed that image. Lucky I've got it. I can't believe it. And this is the picture here. This picture has been cleansed off the internet. Please see if you can find it. This is an example of what they're doing. So the Chinese Communist Party chairman, Mao Zedong, with Israel Epstein first left, right there. These are all Roosevelt's cabinet, war cabinet. Top levels. Anna Louise Strong, third left. That's the lesbian and pen friend of Roosevelt's wife, Anna Louise Strong. She died in Beijing, China. Frank Coe, second right. There's Frank Coe. And Solomon Adler, Shlomo Adler, first right. That's the Roosevelt war cabinet. And we've got the same problem with Donald Trump and the Jared Kushners and the Sheldon Adelson Israeli First, a hardcore political Zionist network that is surrounding Trump that, God willing, we're going to see some changes maybe. So let's get back to the article. You need to understand this basic history, which, you know, the US doesn't tell you anymore. It doesn't teach this stuff, that the highest levels of the US government were penetrated by communist agents. Well, Israeli First agents, communist agents, same thing. All building up China. My God. Where's Whitney Webb? You know why I pick on Whitney Webb and James Corbett? I kick in doors, I smash things up, and I call over here, look over here. And they're like the forensic experts. I'm the cop who kicks in the door. I'm the detective that kicks in the door, roughs people up, puts the cuffs on, and then the forensic investigators come in. And I thought that would be James Corbett and Whitney Webb. I was rejoicing that Whitney Webb was here with Mint Press News. And then she did absolutely nothing and completely forgot about Israel, Russia, China and Iran on the Belt and Road. How do you do that? Because she works for someone. They're funded by Ayatollah Khomeini's students, Rouhani and Zarif. All right, they're left wing, right in with the John Kerry network, Skull and Bones. I was staying with Zarif at his hometown, friends of his. Back to the article. So the Sassoons and the Kadoories played an important role in opening China to the world, says journalist and writer Jonathan Kaufman, whose newly published book, The Last Kings of Shanghai, tells the story of the two families. There's also a book by Ted Fisher called China Inc. I read it in jail, Waterloo Minimum Security Prison. My God, jails have excellent libraries. I'm telling you now, you'd be surprised what's in there. I was meant to do a huge second part to video 5. You remember video 5? You remember video 5, Trump versus Corona? Well, that was part 1. I was meant to do a part 2 based on this whole core of China, building up Kissinger and the Silvermaster spy ring, Soviet-era penetration of the United States, and how it's now being done via Israel with the vast Russian Soviet penetration of Israel, which began a long time ago. Back to the article. In the 1920s and 1930s, Kaufman writes, middle-class and wealthy Chinese flocked to Shanghai, drawn by economic opportunity and a life unavailable anywhere else in China. Glamorous department stores, hotels, nightclubs, gambling casinos. The city of Sassoon and the Kadoories helped to shape, inspire and enable a generation of Chinese businessmen to be successful capitalists and entrepreneurs. Kaufman, a former reporter and editor for the Boston Globe, Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg, and currently director of the Northeastern University School of Journalism, spent 6 years working on the book, travelling the globe to pore through archives and speak to relatives, acquaintances and Chinese government officials to trace the history of the two families. Ultimately, the fate of each of them was very different. The Sassoon suffered a painful fall, lost most of its fortune in the Communist Revolution and left China and abandoned the business world. The Kardoories fled to Hong Kong, rebuilt themselves and emerged stronger than ever in terms of both wealth and influence. The family maintained its status on the mainland over the years, in part by cultivating ties with the communist regimes and refraining from criticising it in public. Quote, your family has always been a friend to China, a senior aide to Chinese President Xi Jinping is quoted as telling Michael Kardoorie, the present head of the family. Imagine, President Xi Jinping, your family has always been a friend to China. Oh. Amid the multiple revolutions that modern China has experienced, the Kardoories always made a point of treading carefully in order to preserve their standing. As China opened up to the world in interwar Shanghai, the Hong Kong under British rule and across China, following the establishment of relations with the West in the late 1970s, that was under Kitchener and co., they flourished, becoming the richest Western family in the country. Their ongoing success is in large measure a barometer of China's overall receptiveness to the world. No, they're receptive to high technology and building themselves up with the help of the Rothschild internationalist predatory banking and financial class who want to end, quote, democracy or limited republics, and particularly the US Constitution, to put in this smart cities UN habitat program with 5G surveillance, semi-autonomous and autonomous robots, drones and armed tracked vehicles to replace police, self-driving vehicles and complete movement control. This is Rothschild, Kissinger, Soros in its modern incarnation. Their ongoing success is in large measure a barometer of China's overall receptiveness to the world. Today, with the surge of Chinese nationalism and the deterioration of the political situation in Hong Kong, the family's future faces a new test. There's Michael Kardoorie, or 5'4" of him, and now you see the crazy rich Asians come from. Okay, so they've got a dynastic, like a blue bloods or a red bloods of China. And they're extremely close ties to Israel. Ehud Barak, Epstein's favourite customer. I mean, he's over there. His family are heavy there. Ehud Barak was a big push for Israel and high technology. Michael Kardoorie, second from left, with David Lee, fourth from left, chairman of the Bank of East Asia, and other guests. Now you'll understand about Malaysia and the massive ethnic Chinese. They run the economy in Malaysia. They run it completely. Ransom to the talks. The story begins with the Sassoons, an aristocratic family that lived in Baghdad for 800 years and was one of the wealthiest families. Because of its social, political and economic status, which extended well beyond the bounds of the Jewish community, the head of the family was granted the title Nazi, a Hebrew honorific meaning Prince of the Jews, by the Ottoman Empire. Now you understand, over time you'll see where Ataturk came from. In the 18th century, Baghdad was a crossroads of trade. People were coming from all over the Middle East, even from China. Kaufman tells Haaretz in a recent phone interview from his home outside Boston. And all these people would pass through the Sassoons' house because they knew they were the most important traders in Baghdad. But hundreds of years of economic success and social integration came to an end one morning in 1829. David Sassoon, who was 37 and had been groomed from childhood to inherent leadership of the family empire, was kidnapped and jailed by the Ottoman authorities in Baghdad. They threatened to hang him if the family did not pay a high ransom for his release. Desperate for money to boost a collapsing economy, the Turks began harassing and imprisoning the Sassoons and other wealthy Jews, demanding ransoms, Kaufman writes. Now, I don't know history, but they were going down because of Jewish influence, or Jews had nothing to do with it and they just wanted a ransom. You know, I'd like to check that out and do a thorough. That needs to be thoroughly studied. Maybe James Corbett and Whitney Webb will look into that, about the reasons for that. But I don't know. I mean, grabbing Jews for ransom was quite common. The harassment dealt a devastating blow to the family. The Sassoons lost their wealth and influence and decided to leave everything and start anew, elsewhere. David Sassoon believed in the integrity and decency of the British, Kaufman notes, and after his family ransomed him, he decided to move with his wife and 8 children to Bombay, which is today Mumbai, where the British were opening up trade routes. Other Jews followed suit. Sassoon became an Anglophile, studying British history, hiring a tutor to teach her children English, and even arranging for the text of God Save the Queen to be translated into his native Judeo-Arabic, Arabic written in Hebrew script. The Sassoons looked upon the Chinese as second-class citizens, so the devastation opium was inflicting on people who were addicted didn't matter because they were Chinese. That's a quote from Kaufman, the author. Kaufman: when David Sassoon had to start over in Bombay and then in China, it was almost Shakespearean. It was not a situation where someone has to start from nothing financially and to move up. It's someone who lost their royal power. Someone who was incredibly powerful and influential has lost everything and now wants to reclaim it. Part of what drove the Sassoons was his desire to reclaim what they once had. In India, Sassoon thrived even more than he had in Baghdad. He bought and sold, imported and traded cotton, wool, gold and silver, and exploited his connections and unrivaled commercial experience to become an important bridge between the traditional Middle Eastern world of trade and the global economic system that was developing under the auspices of the British Empire. He was hailed by the British governor of Bombay as, quote, the first of our non-European merchants in wealth and responsibility. And of course what they don't mention here is that Sassoon was the biggest of the big-time opium traders. In the mid-19th century, the Sassoons began to conduct business involving another product, one that yielded a particularly high financial, and nothing's changed by the way, they just turned to fentanyl, and quickly became their principal source of income, opium. Almost 1/3 of Bombay's commerce at the time was bound up with the export of opium from India to China as well as other countries, Kaufman says, adding that 1 of every 10 Chinese was addicted to the drug. After David's death, his son Elias expanded the drug business, and by 1870, the Sassoons controlled no less than 70% of the opium exports from India and enjoyed exclusive rights to growing the substance on many of the country's farms. At the time, opium was legal in that part of the world, Kaufman says. As a businessman, David Sassoon saw the opportunity and began to dabble in the opium trade because it was like dealing in leather goods or cotton. But it became clear that opium was much more profitable. Oh yeah, he didn't realise it was a great way to placate the local agitating population who didn't want to be treated as second-class citizens. He missed all that. Well, he just wanted to make $1. It was legal. However, the situation was not so simple, he continues. The Sassoons knew how dangerous opium was. No one in the family ever used opium, and in many cases they fired Chinese employees who were addicted to the drug. Here they are, English gentlemen, one and all. Hell, that almost looks like Roger Stone's wife. Victor Sassoon and friends during World War II, Ali Kardoorie told him, Victor, you have to stop being the playboy. You have to take the lead here. You have to help those refugees. At the same time, there were people in England, especially missionaries, but also from other groups, who urged that opium be outlawed. Still, Kaufman says, it is clear to me from reading through the papers in their archives that the Sassoons, like British businessmen and rulers, looked upon the Chinese as second-class citizens, so the devastation opium was inflicting on people who were addicted didn't matter because they were Chinese. In the Sassoons' case, he sums up, the moral balance sheet has to say that they knew they were selling a product that was addictive and caused great damage, but it was legal and they decided to go ahead with it. Oh, so I take it the truth's getting out there, so everyone's trimming their sails and seeking to lead the debate. Okay. Well, better out there than not. Indeed, the family bought the British authorities' intention to outlaw opium. Indeed, the family fought the British authorities' intention to outlaw opium. Under pressure from anti-opium groups, the British government set up a Royal Opium Commission in India in 1893, Kaufman writes. Testifying before the commission, representatives of the Sassoons insisted that, if used in moderation, opium was safe. It was a mere entertainment activity for the upper classes, one Sassoon executive declared, while another added that, if taken moderately, opium was very beneficial. Indeed, the Chinese who smoked or imbibed opium were better behaved, quieter, and far more sensible than those addicted to alcoholic drinks, the Sassoons declared. Oh, those evil British Empire were outlawing opium. Oh my God. British Empire is so evil. In their effort to block the outlawing of opium, and they ended slavery, the Sassoons went all the way to their heir apparent to the British throne, the future King Edward VII. Family members went on to the prince's cruises in various places, entertained him, provided his favourite foods and spent nights at card games and dance parties. The moment David Sassoon settled in the city in the 1940s, he created a local Jewish community from scratch, becoming a one-man immigration absorption ministry, and it's never stopped. Ask Ehud Barak and Benjamin Netanyahu. Most important, Kaufman continues, they helped cover his gambling debts, in part by enabling the prince to acquire opium stock in India and reaping a profit when it sold in Shanghai. In fact, the family made him so much money that he joked that he should appoint Reuben Sassoon as his Chancellor of the Exchequer, Great Britain's Treasury Secretary. David's son, was not appointed Chancellor of the Exchequer, but the Sassoons formally joined the British aristocracy by means of receiving knighthoods and invitations to exclusive events in the presence of the royal family and government leaders. However, that's Lord Levis and all the rest. However, it was all to no avail. In 1906, the British Parliament outlawed the sale of opium in China. With this, the evil British! With this route closed, the Sassoon family's business turned primarily to hotels and construction of skyscrapers in Shanghai. An exception was their investment in a bank with branches there and in Hong Kong, which would eventually become one of the world's largest and the biggest drug money launderers on the damn planet, HSBC. When it comes to drug laundering, go and see HSBC. That's where all the hookers are in... would you believe I lived right next to it in Kuala Lumpur? That's where all the hookers are. They've got all the high-class hookers in the actual bank building. Here's the video. Prostitutes from all over the world, ladyboys, who like to work in that building up there, the HSBC Drug Money Laundering Bank. There goes the ubiquitous monorail. It's very easy to get around on. It's a pretty easy place to get around on, but there it is. That's where all the hookers are, the HSBC building. Have a look at those gotta have those pyramids. And that's where all the high-class hookers are. That's where they compromise everybody. Did you enjoy that? That video's coming out soon. I'll take you for a walk around Kuala Lumpur. I did it before I left. I miss Kuala Lumpur. You have no idea. I love Kuala Lumpur. It's the best. The Sassoons were the first to make the move from Baghdad to Shanghai, Kaufman emphasizes. The moment David Sassoon settled in the city in the 1940s, he created a local Jewish community from scratch, becoming a one-man immigrant absorption ministry. Kaufman is the author of the book, by the way. David Sassoon not only sets up schools, this book's very honest, I'll give him credit. David Sassoon not only sets up schools, but he tells the parents back in Baghdad, send your children to me, your teenagers, I'll educate them. I'll make sure they have a synagogue to go to. If they get sick, I have a hospital they can go to. If they die, I'll make sure they get a Jewish burial. It's a good business move. So now do you understand? You always think of Seinfeld as Jewish. This is the Mitzrayim Jews, the Semitic Jews. Like Yisra Hassoun, who was the second in charge of the Shin Bet, their best recruiter. He recruited Arab spies. So when you see ISIS running around going, Allah Akbar, Takbir, kill, 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 all right, that's Israeli agents running around killing and maiming and beheading, all right, and then doing professional videos on it. That's all Israel. Indeed, a steady stream of young Jews was sent by their families in Iraq to work in Sassoon's enterprises. The Sassoons even brought ritual slaughterers to Shanghai to teach Chinese butchers koshering techniques so there would be food available for the family's employees. Indeed, because initially all the Jews who arrived in Shanghai worked for him, the Chinese word for Jewish workers was Sassoons. And you don't think Pakistani ISI and places like that don't have Jews in them? So you're just totally bamboozled by the culture war in terms of, Jews look like, Seinfeld. In addition to creating an organised community for them, employing Jews from Baghdad. I mean, by the way, I don't even know what a Jew is. If you identify as Jewish, then I guess you're a Jew. For me, being Jewish is a religious thing. You should be doing Passover and Seder at least, even if you don't attend synagogue regularly. But you must be doing Passover, Seder minimum and basic things. Otherwise, how are you even Jewish, for God's sake? I don't get it. But anyway, that's part of the confusion, isn't it? In addition to creating an organised community for them, employing Jews from Baghdad paid off for the Sassoon family, as it helped them preserve trade secrets in a highly competitive milieu. At the time, the Sassoons wrote in Judeo-Arabic, Kaufman notes, a language that few non-Jews and other Jews in the world knew, akin to a secret code, with which they could communicate confidentially among themselves and with their employees, particularly when you lead encryption and other things. Isn't that right? High technology. And notice Judeo-Arabic. The reason it's Arabic is because Hebrew is just so old and so ancient. It's like Latin, ancient Latin. You need more modern words to explain the modern world. Hebrew was regarded as a gutter language in Jesus' time. All the Pharisees, they spoke Greek. That was the culture to aspire to, the Greeks, and the ordinary Jews spoke Aramaic. Few spoke Hebrew. By the late 19th century, the Jewish community in China numbered several hundred people, nearly all of whom had started out in the country in one of Sassoon's companies. One of those arrivals was Eli Kardoorie, who within a few years would become the Sassoon family's greatest business rival. A distant relative to the Sassoons, Kardoorie was 15 when he arrived in Hong Kong from Iraq in 1880. His father had just died, and economic distress prompted his mother to contact the Sassoon family in the hope that they would employ a son. The family took him under its wing and gave him a job as an apprentice clerk in one of its businesses in Hong Kong. All right, I'm going to stop and just go to different segments. I didn't realize how long this article was. Go and read it yourself. The link is below. After a few years of acclimatising and working in minor jobs, Kardoorie decided to strike out on his own. With 500 Hong Kong dollars in hand, which he borrowed from his older brother, who like him had been sent to China to work with the Sassoons, he adopted the name E.S. Kelly to conceal his Jewish roots, and he established a stock brokerage company with two partners. Quote, "The British were deeply anti-Semitic. The Sassoons and the Kardoories could get angry, but instead they decided to give the best parties. They became the centre of social life in Shanghai. It's a way of expanding their influence. Do you understand, Jeffrey Epstein? It's all about parties, prostitutes, and compromise. All of it." A significant turning point occurred when he was 32 and married Laura Makata from an established Jewish family in Britain. Laura gave Ellie, who was living in Hong Kong, entree into the world of London society. They raised their two boys as Britons from their names, Lawrence and Horace, to their English boarding schools, to the mansion they would buy in London, Kaufman writes. In 1901, Kardoorie felt confident enough to change the name of his company to Eli Kardoorie and Sons. It was then that he also made the best investments in rubber companies in Southeast Asia, that'll be Malaysia. Rubber was much in demand for tyres in the then rapidly growing automobile industry in the United States. From a small trader in stocks, he became a successful businessman. From being well off, he rose to millionaire status. Now you understand the Petronas Twin Towers lining up with that Chinese Malay bank with the pyramid on top and the all-seeing eye? Malaysia's totally owned and controlled by them. Totally. Just watch the huge Prime Minister Najib Razak and the 1MDB scandal, and they're all compromised by Chinese intelligence. J-Lo Tech, or J-Lo as they call him, Tech J-Lo, or J-Lo as they call him, he went to the Wharton School of Business, interesting, and he admitted he was a Chinese intelligence asset, and he's over in Crete somewhere hiding out with the Israelis. And, you know, China, he was there to compromise the Malay Muslim business and political elite. In the 1920s, he moved from Hong Kong to Shanghai and built a home for his family that was the largest estate in the city, known as Marble Hall and designed in the style of the Palace of Versailles. The Kardoorie home had a dining room that could seat 50, parking for the family's fleet of Rolls Royces, and a ballroom the size of a soccer field with a ceiling, my God, 25 metres high. Further down the street, Kardoorie bought a private house, demolished it, and built the resplendent Majestic Hotel. It was the best, fanciest hotel in Asia, he crowed, until the Sassoon family's Cathay eclipsed it. Says Kaufman about all these eye-popping construction projects, the Kardoories had come up from nothing. I think it was their way of announcing their arrival and showing they were influential. They had the biggest mansion in Shanghai, which meant that when Charles Lindbergh flew to Shanghai, they gave a party for him. This was something they probably learned from travelling to England, that a lot of business was done in social gatherings, yeah, particularly all the hookers and 13-year-old girls. Ask Epstein. The fact that the Kardoories and the Sassoons ran the best hotels and gave the best parties was a way to connect with the elites. When you look at the private papers of the British, what I found out was they were deeply anti-Semitic. And how did the Sassoons and the Kardoories cope with that? They could get angry, but instead they decided to give the best parties, the best entertainment, thinking, we'll work with people and force them to dine with us and do our steals with us. They become the centre of social life in Shanghai. It's a way of expanding their influence. No, that's a way of hooking people up with hookers and who knows what, young boys, young girls. So that's Eli Kardoorie with his sons Lawrence left and Horace. Eli's commitment to the Jews reached a peak in the late 1930s when ships with the hundreds of refugees from Germany began arriving in Shanghai harbour. There they are, British English gentlemen to the last, like a Lord Levi hanging around with President Rouhani of Iran and Mr. Zarif attending the Chatham House and the Royal Institute of International Affairs and Davos every chance that little dwarf pedo can. Where's their wives? I've never seen a picture of Rouhani and Zarif with wives. Anyway, anytime. They're all Swiss banking. That's why I stayed with Zarif's family, friends in Hansa, Lashkari. Ziba Lashkari's son worked in Swiss banking. She was off to Zurich every second, twice a year. Now you understand.
Zips in the wire down here.
Roger, last Bravo 6. Can't run it any closer. We'll have to try and back and stake a nape, but we're bingo fuel.
For the record, it's my call. Dump everything you've got left on my pause. I say again, expend all remaining in my perimeter. It's a lovely fucking war. Bravo 6 out.
With their luxury hotels and glittery soirees, both the Sassoons and the Kardoories made a... So I just have to add, here I am in the apartment. That's where the Persian Gulf Study Centre, Mr. Pasapor and two others. Great guys, really good guys. Didn't know English, I didn't know Farsi. Although I do remember Khayli Mamnoon is thank you very much. And Babak Shoma Inglisi Sobach Mikonid, which is, excuse me, do you speak English? Still remember. So I was just learning Farsi at that stage. But the lawyer then, David T. Lashkari, said to me, Brendan, and I'll put the photos up here. This is David T. Lashkari. He's based in Atlanta, Georgia. His father was friends with Rafsanjani, and they both went to the Shah. The Shah asked them, well, what's going on? You joining with this revolution? And they said yes. And that's when the Shah got out. That's who that was. He was handling me. He's the closet homosexual. He was rubbing my back saying, he's so stressed, Brendan. And got down on his knees in front of me at a gym, inserted the pin into the weight stack. John McAfee loves this story. Inserts the pin into the weight stack and says, hey, Brendan, it must be great to be around a really masculine man like me. You think I'm making that up? All right, here he is, and he's just a scam artist, and he's based in Atlanta, Georgia. He's just an ambulance chasing. This is a great guy, Mr. Passport. He couldn't stand him either. We would laugh, roll our eyes. But these beautiful little Iranian bastards, they love it. Make coffee, not war. Trust me, they do not want a war. These are the nicest people you are ever going to meet. I'll tell you the problem with the Iranians. They're too freaking nice. Not too warlike, too nice. Fuck, I hope they do a conference. I won't be involved, but I hope they do conferences here. I really do. I love it. That's the same. I love it here in Iran. I fucking love it. He told me in the apartment, this apartment, and I'm paraphrasing closely. This is when it all clicked for me, December 2016. I'm in Tehran in the apartment, and he says, Brendan, it's really big. We are going to handle the stands, that's Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, okay, for this big project. Okay, and I said, oh, it sounds like a Persian Empire 2.0, and he laughed. Sorry, I'm just trying to remember the exact conversation. I have to get back. But that was the gist of the conversation. And then I clicked, it's the damn Belt and Road. That's why all these Chinese businessmen are everywhere. You go to Tehran, Chinese businessmen everywhere. You go to the airport, they've got lines of them going into special doors. Swiss and Germans, I mean, I get there and Swiss and Germans are everywhere. You understand, for an Iranian, the joke is, for an Iranian, Hajj is a trip to Berlin. They worship Adolf Hitler, okay? Iranians worship Adolf Hitler and Germany. Worship them, literally worship them. But they don't believe in any of the Holocaust stuff. They believe it's all a lie and Hitler was basically a good guy. They really do. They have no subtlety with the Second World War. He was neither a Satan nor was he a saint. But he was not innocent, Adolf Hitler, let me tell you. But I'm telling you, they keep them dumb and stupid so they don't speak English. They do it on purpose. They speak Arabic. Why? They'll be handling the Arab states. That's what the whole invasion of Iraq was about. Paul Bremer, head of Kissinger and Associates. They just set all of Iraq on fire. The American generals are saying, what are you doing? If you sack all the Ba'ath Party, you're going to create an insurgency. It's going to be chaos. And they did it anyway, because the point was to set Iraq on fire, Syria on fire, and you've seen the results now. And Iran is deep in bed with them via Chatham House, Royal Institute of International Affairs. And by understanding Kardoories and Sassoons in China, you will understand Iran. Okay, now the average Iranians are really beautiful people. I loved it. If I could go back there tomorrow, if an Ahmadinejad got back in, because he would actually do something. But it's pretty hard when you're doing tiger claw, Masonic signs, Muslim Brotherhood stuff, and you have a pyramid for a parliament with 33 windows. But I guess Malaysia's the same. They've got Petronas Twin Towers with their little obelisk. It's everywhere. Masonry is everywhere. But I think Ahmadinejad was possibly the real deal. I know his shortcomings, but he called for Sunni Shia unity. That's why they had to get rid of him, and they collapsed the economy, blamed it on Ahmadinejad and corruption when it was Rafsanjani, the rat, the Swiss banker boy, who was doing it all. And now you see their proteges, Rouhani and Zarif, doing the business, hanging with Lord Levi, hanging with Jack Straw, hanging with Rothschild. Now, once you understand the Kardoories and Sassoons and their business in China, you can begin to understand Iran. And Isfahan in particular. But look, this is not a critique of the Iranian people. They were beautiful people. I loved it there, man. It killed me to leave. It absolutely killed me. It killed me to leave Malaysia. Trust me. I loved it. Traditional cultures, but modern. Iran would be very modern. I mean, Iran should be an ally of the United States, not its enemy. But Israel hates Iran, not just for geopolitical reasons or threats. They hate it because it's 80 million very bright, intelligent people with the giant resources in a big land in the middle of the Eurasian landmass. And Israel wants to be the boss. And they're jealous. It just gets down to pathetic jealousy, for crying out loud. All of these people could be working together, including Israel. It should be a secular state, equal rights for Jews, Christians and Muslims, just like Lebanon. And it could be that, but there are people that don't want that. They want war and they want control. They want UN Habitat smart cities. They want 5G. semi-autonomous and autonomous vehicles, drones, tracked armoured vehicles. That's what they're trying to do. Let's get back to the Kardoories. But by understanding Kardoories and Sassoons, you will understand places like Iran and why Zarif is hanging at Chatham House in Davos every chance he gets, and why China is really at war. If Trump takes out China properly, takes out the Chinese Communist Party, he'll take out Israel. But the Kardoorie family investment portfolio contained more than just luxury hotels and prestigious high-rises. Elie Kardoorie is one of the first to identify the vast latent potential in China, and to a large degree also in Hong Kong, and began to invest in infrastructure there. These encompassed railways, mining companies, and above all, China Light and Power, which he established together with Chinese investors, Kaufman explains. The company supplied and continues to supply power to South China. So it continues to supply power to South China. I wonder who's on that electrical grid, Zohar Zisapel. Rad Group, you've got all the electrical grids and all the databases in America. You can guarantee they've got most of China too. And to a large part Hong Kong. In Shanghai, Kardoorie did something similar, investing in gas companies, construction firms and transportations. He believed in the city's potential to grow and rightly decided to invest in its infrastructure, recruiting chaplain. One of the surprising sections in Kaufman's book is about the very different attitudes of the heads of the two families towards the then developing Zionist movement. The approach of each was much influenced by the way he rose to the top. The Sassoons came from this almost royal lineage, says the author and the Opium Supply, and they immediately connected with the Chinese elite. Throughout Jewish history, he continues, some Jews look around in different situations and realise they want to be on the side of the imperialists and the colonisers. In England, the Sassoons became friends with the Prince of Wales. They owned mansions and castles. They'd become part of British society. They go on to work for the Prime Minister. They are friends with Winston Churchill. I think that was the choice the Sassoons made, and it paid off tremendously well for them. From the first, the Sassoons had been more successful, richer and more influential than the Kardoories, Kaufman notes, but they did not grasp the size of the threat posed by the communists in China. Just remember, it was American military intelligence, Wall Street and the rest who decided to shift from Chiang Kai-shek, who became a Christian and ran to Taiwan. And yes, there was corruption, peeved a lot of people up. And they then moved all the arms to Mao. That was a decision because Chiang Kai-shek was talking about democracy. We don't want democracy. We want an imperialist power with a dictator we can deal with. We don't want to deal with 15 different groups. That's why they went with Mao. They always planned to go with Mao. Judaism apparently did not play a large part in the life of Victor Sassoon, David's grandson, who ran the family businesses in Shanghai in the interwar period, nor did the fate of the Zionist movement Kaufman contrast. I mean, look, a lot of these people just considered themselves British. I'm sure they weren't sitting there going, oh, I'm plotting. They just wanted money. They loved English high society, culture, order, law and order, rule, being fair, and all those other cliches. By contrast, Elie Kardoorie felt as if he were stateless. His applications to receive British citizenship were rejected time after time. Indeed, it wasn't until almost 50 years after he left Baghdad that he was so granted the coveted citizenship along with a knighthood. He's attracted to Zionism the way so many Jews were, in that he was a man without a country, Kaufman writes. He saw Zionism as a way to protect Jews and give them the security that he personally was missing and that Jews were missing all over the world. This is why I tell you over and over, the average so-called quote-unquote Jew has no interest in plotting, no interest in taking over the world. They just want to have sex, eat, avoid their bowels and pay a mortgage like everybody else. Just like everyone else. And when you see the push for anti-Semitism and Jewish hatred, rather than a seasoned rational debate, and I learnt many lessons from my own hate speech trial and all the rest. It's been very difficult for me personally, as a guy with a future in a first world country called Australia. I lost everything basically, but I'm sure it's all part of God's plan, and I've matured a lot. I have to almost thank the system, because the world can be a dangerous place. It's not easy. It's not like running a YouTube channel. But we do need to watch what we say in the interest of incitement, and just bring Jews into the fold and say, it's okay, do Seder and Passover. Hell, I'll do it with you. But enough of this Talmudic Jewish supremacist garbage. Karaites, interpret the damn Tanakh Old Testament for yourself. The Karaites are the true Jews from the religious perspective, not Nutricado Talmud Jews, please. Bunch of lunatics. This is why BB funds and coddles the white nationalist movement. He's got to keep, particularly American Jews and European Jews, but particularly American Jews, on his side. He needs to make them nervous. That's why I believe you're going to see a lot of funding come in. You're going to see a lot of agitation and funding. Always remember this quote. It's in my UN document. This quote. Here we are. Thank God for Control F. This is from the editor of Sharon. It's in my 2012 UN HCR refugee document on page 628 of 1018. This is a common theme, getting Jews to come to Israel. This is from the editor of Sharon, editorial article in the official newspaper of the governing Labour Party. This is the left, the so-called left. Davar, Israel, July 11, 1952. Now, when you think of Adam Green, or you think of Patrick Little, and Jews rape kids, this sort of stuff. Look, Holocaust is a lie, Jews killed 30 million, expel the Jew by 22, vote little, win big. You'll understand him. He may just be a moron, not even realise he's being pushed. This one, which Adam Green laughed, thought it was hilarious, Jews rape kids, $3,000 blimp. Never thought to get a truck billboard like this. Never thought to get something like this. Israel has sold us out to China. That might be useful. The white nationalist movement, I despise them. They're an effing joke, ethically, morally, and by their actions. They're morons. Israel has sold us out to China. If Jews were their sworn enemy in Israel, you don't think they'd be pouring all their money? David Duke makes a fortune. Have you heard him speak about this? Ever do anything but sit online ranting about Jews, blah, blah, blah? Israel has sold us out to China. Like what they did here. Microsoft funds secret Israeli surveillance of Palestinians. No one's done it. Everyone says, oh, will you help me do it? Yeah, sure. I want your driver's license and passport. I want to know exactly who you are. You're not setting me up. Oh, I'm not going to do it then. You'll throw me under a bus. Yeah, I will, because they're all white nationalist clowns. They can't do a damn thing by themselves. Why haven't they done this? Do you understand what I'm saying here? Can't you see the joke that is Patrick Little and Adam Green and the rest? But Adam Green does all this good stuff. Yeah, Adam Green's meant to be out there. Adam Green's not getting phone calls from Netanyahu, even when he goes to Israel. That should be your first clue. He gets to Israel. Adam Green is just controlled opposition. He's a moron. He was going to take over this subject. There he is with little Greg McCarran. Oh, I don't want to hang out with you, Brendan, and get Jews, Christians and Muslims together. I want to hang out with the white nationalists and Adam Green. You know, oh, nothing to see here. Oh, he's not a white nationalist. Oh, look at the Viking pagan stuff. Come on, man. I know all this stuff. I know real white nationalists in Europe, thanks. Oh, please. There's him and Jake in occupied Palestine, you know. Didn't realise who Christopher John Bjerknes was. His girlfriend's hanging with Abby Martin and who's Joe Rogan's friend, one of the people he pushes. Adam Green's girlfriend's hanging out with him. Oh, I know Adam Green back the front. Here's Adam Green. Do you understand why they do this? They killed the Jews rape kids blimp, but they didn't kill the dream. That's Adam Green. All right, there. Didn't think to do a truck or focus on high technology or go down to military bases and spread. No. He's never set foot outside his house. Some brothers from LA asked me for his address. I said, no, he lives at home with his mother. I'm not going to give his address out. All right, but that's the only reason, Adam. You need to face the consequences of your action. You knew exactly what you were doing when you were around Bjerknes. Thomas Lackerover Stewart emailed you, did it. You said, yeah. Next day, you were out there with him again, Red Ice Radio, Red Ice TV. Here's Hendrik Rossema. I presume this might be Hendrik Palmgren. What are you talking about? What if a normal person sees this? I love it. What if a normal person sees this? Because Adam Green's laughing at the blimp. How does this make us look? Now you agree that with the blimp, but you still want to cooperate with them? I heard your mum was Jewish, Adam. Why did you lie about that? And what else are you hiding? That's a very good question, what Adam Green is hiding. And we'll get into that. There he is, if you don't know, Christopher John Bjerknes, the man who says the white race must rule the other races. Look in video 5, you'll find it there. He knew all about it, had him on, 12 times? Then when he realised it was costing him, because good old Whitney Webb came on, refused to tweet his stuff out. There she is there. Whitney Webb. All right, she wouldn't tweet out the interview. He got upset because she worked out who Adam Green was. That's why he's with nobodies now. There she is with Sean Atwood. Whitney Webb, Mint Press News, funded by Iran, funded by John Kerry gang. All right, they won't mention Russia, China and the Belt and Road. All right, there's Sean Atwood, the drug trafficker. He's not a dashing Barry Seal flying in dashing missions to fly the drugs in at arms. No. Sean Atwood's a low-life meth and ecstasy dealer. He's a low-life. And he's doing TEDx talks in Switzerland. Are you kidding me? Funded by St. Gallen. You know, the British intelligence hangout when they go to study old manuscripts. They go to St. Gallen. Of all the places in the world, Sean Atwood could have been. He chooses that? I mean, have a look. Do you think this is normal? TEDx. Over 1.5 million views, 2017. Johnny on the Spot turns up. Look at this. Right? And it's also funded by St. Gallen, a Swiss university, famous for its intelligence people hanging out there. All right? With all the pyramids around. That's Johnny on the Spot now. Johnny on the Spot. Sean Atwood. You want to read this article about all the lovely things he was up to? Yeah. Sean Atwood. What a gaggle of malcontents. Jews rape kids. See, this is why they're pushing it. Now I'm going to read it and you'll understand Adam Green. CIA culture, why they push him, why he got out there, why he's got 100,000 subscribers, why he's got a personal email to a handler on YouTube, and why YouTube won't touch him, despite the fact hanging around with Red Eyes TV saying, thank you, Henrik. All right, the notorious fake white nationalist group. Look, used to do UFO and alien stuff. Listen to this. This is from Sharon, the governing Labour Party, Davar, Israel, 1952. This is for now. They're going to do this right now. Watch. I shall not be ashamed to confess that if I had the power, as I have the will, I would select a score of efficient young men, that's you, Adam Green and Patrick Little, intelligent, well, that's debatable, decent, devoted to our ideal, and burning with desire to help redeem Jews. And I would send them to the countries where Jews are absorbed in sinful self-satisfaction. The task of these young men would be to disguise themselves as non-Jews. I repeat, the task of these young men would be to disguise themselves as non-Jews and plague these Jews with anti-Semitic slogans such as bloody Jew, Jews go to Palestine, and similar intimacies. I can vouch that the results in terms of considerable immigration to Israel from these countries would be 10,000 times larger than the results brought by thousands of emissaries who have been for decades preaching to deaf ears. Now, do you understand Adam Green now? Do you get Patrick Little? Do you get these people? Tell me you get it. Do you understand Adam Green? Do you understand why this moron McCarran, when I said, logically, can we please focus on IT forums, cybersecurity, crypto forums, people worried about their money, it's all Israeli, Unit 8200 Telpiot, and we focus on the military, policing, intelligence. We get Jeremy to go up to, and Greg to go to FBI buildings, make reports, we'll make up documents and flyers. Nobody gave a damn. They just wanted me to hang out with Adam Green. And who organised that? Now do you understand why I'm getting invited to the monastery with Bannon? Now do you understand I get invited to Europe and the Tour de France to hang out with Ken O'Keefe and with millionaires? People who know Adam Green, they're in San Diego. Anthony Poulter. Look at the last chapter of my UN document. Appendix 16, contact by associate of Steve Bannon, Anthony Poulter. Bannon knows him well, but he had lunch with Bannon in Rome. All right, he knows Adam Green. Says, I want to get you Adam Green on the thing. I say, I ain't going anywhere near Adam Green. All right. Architect, allegedly San Diego. That's where he said. Friend of Adam Green. I would like to help. That's when he first contacted me. 20th of February, 2019. And you can go into all the foul and disgusting emails. I could provide a place to stay for Ken and you and do the work a few months in Europe over summer. I've spoken to Ken in depth on many issues. That's Ken O'Keefe. Should we look at Ken O'Keefe? Thanks for the Zionist report. I was laughing. I should laugh. It's almost tragic. Ken O'Keefe. Complete drug, meth addict, alcoholic, hopeless. Kevin Barrett said he was always drunk at the conferences. I have a yacht, a beautiful yacht, Swan 45. Now, do you remember Patrick Little used to hang around with yachts and do radio communications with yachts? I'll go into that later. It's a whole hotbed. Now, do you understand Adam Green? Do you understand Adam Green now? Let's read that passage again. Can we read this passage again? The task of these young men would be to disguise themselves as non-Jews and plague these Jews with anti-Semitic slogans such as bloody Jew, Jews go to Palestine, and similar intimacies. Now you understand Adam Green, Patrick Little, and the gang. Let's go on with the article. The Kardoorie family ultimately contributed much to the Zionist enterprise and even persuaded the Chinese government to support the Balfour Declaration. Think about it. And even persuaded the Chinese government to support the Balfour Declaration because why? The bunting cloverleaf map. This. I think it was Bridget that found this. Bunting's Map in Israel and China's New Silk Road. It's actually one of my favourite articles in understanding the big picture that Whitney Webb and James Corbett won't tell you. But we will. We'll keep pushing them. They're getting upset. I'm getting emails. Please stop. Jeff Berwick wants me to hang out. Go F yourself, you piece of garbage. Dear God. Yosef Badansky, an Israeli-American political scientist and senior editor of GIS Defense and Foreign Affairs Daily, wrote an insightful article in the September issue regarding the convergence of China's Afro-Eurasian integration project and Bunting's map of the world as a cloverleaf. This is the Belt and Road. Africa down here, Europa, Asia, and Jerusalem in the middle. That's what the war in Iraq was about. It wasn't about oil. It was to complete the Bunting cloverleaf map Belt and Road project, the Rothschild pan-Eurasian superstate. They want to boot the US out of the region, out of the Middle East. That is excellent, and I did a good video on it here. Number 4, excellent video. Number 4, COVID-19, Corona, Israel, the Bunting cloverleaf map, Palestine and Greater Israel. That is an excellent, excellent video, and a few people from interesting places got back to me on that and thanked me. It worked them up to some things. Watch that video. So when you understand Kardoorie, Sassoon, you'll understand Rothschilds of the East, you'll understand the big picture. Maybe Alex Jones. You notice Alex Jones talking about Rothschild now? Every day now he says Rothschild. I hope him and Steve Bannon stop fighting, get together and do the business, which is to completely remove China's high technology capacity, make it completely dependent on the United States. In fact, the whole world, Taiwan Semiconductor should be moved completely. It's owned by allegedly American hedge funds anyway, probably Rothschild, or I'd say Rothschild owns everything. And Taiwan can have a fab there, but it won't be state of the art. It'll all be done in America, all of it. And then everyone comes begging for the tech. Beg, beg, beg on your knees for the tech. No, Andy Gove, the Hungarian Jew, the man who really got Intel in a proper form, because Robert Noyce and the gang were scientists, they were engineers, they weren't business people. It was Andy Gove who came in and straightened them out. He said in the late 90s, the greatest catastrophe ever is this outsourcing of US high technology. Well, it was a plan, the same way as Bill Binney will tell you in A Good American. You got to watch this documentary. It's the full high quality documentary, A Good American. Bill Binney, the legendary Bill Binney. I love Bill Binney. The master encryption lead of the United States. It was just him and Turing, probably the best in the world. And he said, Bill Binney says in this video, that they came in and they privatized everything post 9/11, 2002. They had a thing called Thin Thread. It did everything. It encrypted the communications, it maintained privacy, and it exposed 9/11 and linked Mohammed Atta and all these hijackers. And in came the heads of the NSA, I think it was Clapper and good old Hayden, Michael Hayden, and said, no, they privatized everything, they outsourced everything, and instead of 400 million, they spent 5 million on Trailblazer, 5 billion on a thing called Trailblazer. It was a disaster. Because they were opening up American high-tech to Israel. Now they only have to penetrate Dell. They're not penetrating the NSA, they're penetrating a subcontractor called Dell. Saying they don't have to penetrate the CIA, they penetrate Dell, who works with the CIA. And if you look, they're all Unit 8200 Telpiot graduates, and they're running the damn companies. Let me tell you, this disaster. Go and watch A Good American. Bill Binney, legend, legend, legend of legends. So the Kardoorie family ultimately contributed much to the Zionist enterprise and even persuaded the Chinese government to support the Balfour Declaration. The Kardoorie Agricultural High School in Lower Galilee was built with funds from the estate of Eli's brother, Sir Alice Kardoorie. And I guarantee you these people are linked in with Sheldon Adelson and the Adelson School of Entrepreneurship. It's a commercial spy school. They're getting Africans in, Asians in. All right, and they're training them up and they're grooming them and they're sending them to parties and they're feeding them full of cocaine and methamphetamine and hookers and little boys and little girls or animals, whatever they're into, and then they send them off as agents for the state of Israel. That's this. The Adelson School of I can never spell entrepreneur. Let's give it a go. Ew. Spelling. I'm going to have 500 Jews on my channel now correcting my spelling. Cultivating the New Generation, the Adelson School of Entrepreneurship, IDC Herzliya, right next door to Mossad. It's all in my videos, people. If you want to know, go and watch my videos. Watch them all. You'll get the whole picture. If you've got family in the military, policing, intelligence, send them to my channel. Hands-on experience. Yeah, I bet it's hand-on. Lots of coke parties, lots of hookers, lots of little boys, little girls. They groom you. That's where it's a talent spotter. So they bring you in. It's like masonry. They bring you in, or bushy-tailed, and that's where you get groomed, recruited, and usually compromised. They like blackmail, not bribery. Combining academic learning with hands-on opportunities. They've got people from all over the world, Africa and China and Asia in general. Let's go back. And who's the Russian Jewish oligarch in Great Britain? Oh, hell, I've forgotten his name. I'm going to leave it for now, but he's got to be gone into... I'm sure Jaleel will come on and put a link up. I'll pin it to the top. Eli Kardourie's commitment to his brethren reached a peak in the second half of the 1930s when ships bearing hundreds of Jewish refugees from Germany began arriving in the harbour of Shanghai, the only city that agreed to accept them at the time. How about that, eh? The only city that agreed to accept them at the time. He urged, and Roosevelt wouldn't even accept them because he wanted, that was the deal, get them into Palestine. He urged the Jewish communities in the United States and Europe to mobilise and help these refugees, but no assistance was forthcoming. Now, why? No one could be that callous. I mean, these were mostly educated people. They weren't some lowlife from some gutter backwards Polish village, shtetl. These were, a lot of academics and intellectuals. They wouldn't have them. Why? Because they wanted them in damn Palestine. That's why. To mobilise and help these refugees, but no assistance was forthcoming. He then turned to his great business rival, Victor Sassoon, to recruit him for the mission. Kaufman relates that Eli Kardoorie says to Victor Sassoon, quote, "Victor, you have to stop being the playboy. You have to take the lead here. You have to help these refugees. I will follow you, but you have to do this." America's fairy godfather to liberty lovers, Shanghai, Scotty, Eastern Area CAC. Thought for today. Oh, that's the guy that changed his name, one of the Sassoons. People free from the detention camp in Shanghai. Sassoon was apparently concerned mainly about what would befall his businesses if Japan invaded China, and no less about the fate of his family in London in case of a German invasion. Nevertheless, see, you just, make Jews uncomfortable, make them live in fear, then you build Israel. That's the whole point. And you shift all the tech there and you make it the center of artificial intelligence. You link it in with the Swiss and the Hadron Collider people who are literally making simulations of the universe. You then link it in with a quantum computer and then you lead the world. You can do miracles with that sort of technology. He was a leading actor in the American motion picture industry and asked him to host a fundraising event in 1937 in the States for the refugees in Shanghai. Chaplin agreed immediately and even donated part of his earnings from his film, The Great Dictator, to the cause. Victor Sassoon was a complex person. He was a playboy. He was a millionaire. He was a sharp businessman, Kaufman says. He also loved celebrities, because he was compromising them. He's an Epstein. He loved being with them. He loved having his pictures taken with him. Yeah, I bet he did. But during World War II, he really rose to the occasion, and he really did try to use his influence in Hollywood and everywhere else to try to seek out against the Nazis and to find a way to stop the tragedy that was unfolding in Europe. I expect a Hollywood movie soon on this. The mobilization of the two magnates did not stop at raising funds. When the Japanese invaded China and joined Germany as an Axis power, the Sassoons and the Kardoories joined forces and achieved one of the miracles of World War II, Kaufman relates in his book. As 18,000 European Jews travelled 5,000 miles from Berlin and Vienna and steamed into Shanghai fleeing Nazism, Victor Sassoon negotiated secretly with the Japanese while Nazi representatives urged the Japanese occupiers to pile Jewish refugees onto barges and sink them in the middle of the Hungpai River. Together, the Sassoons and the Kardoories did something that Jews in Europe and Palestine and even the United States couldn't do. They protected every Jewish refugee who set foot in their city, among them thousands of children. Sassoon conducted his negotiations, which Kaufman describes in detail, with a Japanese army officer named Koroshinka, a ferocious anti-Semite and ardent supporter of Hitler who called the Jews the source of evil thoughts. But Sassoon, the businessman and celebrity thought to be the wealthiest person in Shanghai, took the mission on personally. He pampered Inzuka with lavish meals, impressed him with his wealth, and no doubt compromised him with hookers and little boys, and invited Japanese army officers to stay at the Cathay Hotel at his expense. At the same time, he discussed the possibilities of economic cooperation and possible investments by the family of Japanese companies. Sassoon got Inzuka to believe that ensuring the security of the Jews in Shanghai was nothing less than Japan's national interest. Sassoon was a leading figure and willing to cooperate. Now I'm rushing because I'm at Airbnb and they're about to start screaming and drinking in the pool. reported to Tokyo, the leading class of the Jews in Shanghai has become very pro-Japanese, Kaufman writes. The two conducted intense negotiations for years until in August 1939, Japan announced that it would not allow any more Jews to enter Shanghai. However, the 15,000 Jews who had already arrived and 3,000 more were en route were protected. In fact, the Kardoorie and Sassoon families placed them under their care, housed them in their hotels and apartment buildings, and provided hot meals, basic equipment, medical care and clothing. Subsequently, they also helped the newcomers find work. They created schools, day camps, music programs and more for the children. Let's end it now because we're about to get yelling and screaming. The Kardoories are slow and steady. They build and ultimately surpass the Sassoons. Whereas the Sassoons make all their money early, become one of the richest families in the world in the 1930s, and then lose it, the Kardoories, by being more deliberate and maybe a little less impulsive, end up becoming more successful in the long term. Yet that's Crazy Rich Asians. The family's worth, that's the movie. The family's worth today is estimated at 13 billion. These people are all in Hong Kong as we speak. They still control the Hong Kong Electric Company as well as the Peninsula Hotels chains, which are considered the world's most luxurious hotels. So you have something of a reversal of fortunes. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that. Sorry I rushed it. This is just where I live now. I can't compete with noise. It's just where I am. I hope you understand and how you can tie in the Belt and Road project, the Bunting Cloverleaf map, such as this. Again, the link is below. Nathan Gregory Silver Master, the infiltration of the United States, what you're seeing now under Soros, what Kissinger's up to with this picture. Okay, Michael Pillsbury. Pillsbury is like the leading "we got to watch out for China" author. That's what that's about. So I presume what they're saying is Kissinger's on board now. So all the multi-billionaires and business people in America and elsewhere, get on board because Kissinger's on board and we are going to take out the Chinese Communist Party and get all your investments back. And I presume they're going to take Israel out of the equation. That's what you have to watch out for, because this could be the triple cross with all of this stuff. You have to be very cautious, but I'm mildly optimistic. But look, man, at the end of the day, we have to consider the big, broad strategic picture and then the tactical picture. What worries us all is the inclusion, perhaps on the streets of the United States soon. I thought it would take at least 5 years and 10 years in total to fully integrate 5G and autonomous robots and drones and semi-autonomous vehicles. They have tracked autonomous vehicles right now, varying from several tons to just a few hundred kilos, with cannons on them to machine guns. And they're going to be on the street right now. They're probably going to pour them off the Elbit Systems Israeli production line and the US production line very soon and put them on the streets within the next 12 months earlier. God help us. We cannot allow 5G, the surveillance state. Forget about 5G as a health risk. Short term, there is no health risk with 5G. You don't even know the difference between 5G and tell me, how do you even know if your experts online are not even telling you the difference between 3.4 gigahertz 5G in a tower and a 60 gigahertz WiGig? If you're so worried about 60 gigahertz WiGig suffocating you in this garbage, stick it in a box with a couple of hamsters named Henrietta and Henry and see if they're still alive in the morning. None of you want to do it. It could be a lot of views with a live stream, because then you're not going to get any money, because you can't terrorize people into sending you money. I do not want to be bathed in 5G or any frequency. It's killing me now at 2.4 gigahertz. It's killing me. All right. No one's trading in their 4G phone, are you? And yet the 4G cancer clusters on top of buildings are off the chart. But you're still using your 4G, aren't you? So stop your hysteria about 5G. We got to worry about 5G, immediate problems to do with the surveillance state. The new surveillance state is built entirely on 5G, entirely. And tens of thousands of clusters of those small 5G, high in the 28 to 40 gigahertz to 60 gigahertz range, that's going to be on the streets. That's the problem, because it's central to the surveillance state. That's why it has to be stopped and at least put under massive controls, and you need Senate hearing committees. It's got to be put out in public. Let's deal with China and the CCP first, and Israel, and the bankers, the international predatory banking and financial class. You know who I'm talking about. We're talking about the East India Trading Company and all their friends. Sassoon and Kadoories, you know the people. There's a few thousand of them, and they've got to be dealt with. I don't want to hear about leftists. I don't want to hear about libtards or the commies. Yes, we use that language from time to time. We want to see bankers arrested and preferably hanging from lampposts. If we have to be more civilized than that and lock them up in Pelican Bay and release all the non-violent drug offenders, all the people in jail on pot and other stuff, even cocaine, heroin, as long as they're not violent, then you know what? Release them all, because we got a lot of bankers, men in suits to put in jail. power. I do not want to hear another word about, oh, the leftists and the men in dresses and culture war. No, we got to deal with the bankers. They fund it all. Let's deal with the bankers. Thank you to everyone. Speak to you soon. Please understand the Silver Master spy ring stuff. Understand Nathan Gregory Silver's, Bunting's Cloverleaf Mac, and the long history of Sassoon and Kadoories in China and elsewhere. Understand the links between China and Israel, Russia and Israel, and then you will understand the giant God-forsaken scam that's going on now. Israel has to be exposed as a client state of the old Soviet Union, built on Jews who transferred there from the Polish shuttles, Belarus and Russia, Moldova, like Avigor Lieberman. All right, they are agents for the Soviet Union and Rothschilds' Golem creation, the Soviet Union, aka communism. It's a banker war. All communism is bankers. They run it all. You don't have capitalism in the United States. You have crony capitalism. Okay, you don't have free markets in the United States. You live off a $1 trillion military industrial complex Pentagon budget, which is a handout to the high technology companies. That's socialism. That's a socialist handout. There is a place for a powerful government that is in the hands of an active citizenry, all right, because you are a member of the board of the government. You're a member of the board. But if you won't participate in the electoral process, in the political process, if you won't lobby, if you want to click links all day, then there's other people who will lobby. And they will build corporations. I do not want a weak government and allow corporations out of control. Otherwise, you end up, as Bill Binney said, it's all privatized. They've privatized the NSA. They've privatized the CIA. Now you have privatized companies like Stratfor, Alex Jones's friends, doing all this stuff. You have privatized military under people like Eric Prince and Blackwater who are over there in China, running drugs and doing all sorts of mischief. You have the privatized intelligence networks of Rothschild. It's all been privatized. We want it in an open government where I get transparency, I get Senate hearing committees, and you lobby government. It's just boring for you, isn't it? Well, you're about to find out, especially you, America, and Australia, Europe, and the rest of you are in deep trouble. We're all in deep trouble. You're about to find out what sitting and clicking links all day and bitching with your mates on 4chan is going to cost you. So you better move your fat backside, your fat 300-pound sloth self off the couch. You better talk to your friends in the military, policing, intelligence, and elsewhere, and start educating the right people to fix this problem. Get the narrative right. I'm giving you the correct narrative, and we expected the internet heroes, the Sargent Report and Blackstone Intelligence. We expected James Corbett, and we expected Mint Press News and Whitney Webb to give us good, detailed narratives that we could take to important, educated people. No flat earth, no aliens, no idiot David Icke with his bullshit, but we can't do it because they won't give you the narrative. Well, I'll do it while you troll these SOBs and pull them into line. Thanks for listening. It's Saturday. I'm going to go get a coffee. And Hoda Fez Jumpalagi Jumpananti. Adios, muchachos.
Be advised, we got zips in the wire down here.
Can't run it any closer. We'll have to try back and stake a name, but we're bingo fuel.
For the record, it's my call. Dump everything you've got left on my pond. I say again, expend all remaining in my perimeter. A lovely fucking war. Bravo 6 out. lovely fucking war. Bravo 6 out.